Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I would like to introduce my very first sponsor, Buddy Christ. He'll be assisting us tonight while we go over a new topic. Talk is going to be something that is true and dear to me. A little break from what I'm usually covering in my channel, but because it affected me greatly in my life, I figured we would go over it and discuss it. And if I can reach a few people about the best, about how to conduct parenting better than what was done unto me, I would be very happy. So, without further ado, I hope you all enjoy my fireplace stuff here. I did not actually do it. I took it off YouTube, but it's cool. Okay, now that we're done with that, let's see what's up. Let's go over a quick, looks like a 2-minute thing here, a good introduction. Let's just go over this quickly.
So did you ever get spanked by your parents, or do you spank your children? New research tells us that spanking can actually do significant harm to our kids. Our 9 Health expert joins us to review the latest research. Dr. Pyle Coley, thank you so much for coming in.
My pleasure. Good
Appreciate
morning, Corey.
All right, so what are the consequences of spanking kids?
You know, spanking has been around for so long. I still remember being spanked as a child myself. I'm sure
same.
you do too.
Yep.
But it can cause mental health problems like depression, anxiety, psychological problems such as antisocial behavior, and behavioral problems like aggression.
Why does it cause?
I also want to throw in some more that I know about. Hitting kids does other things as well. It lowers IQ. It lowers social skills. It increases criminality, and it increases promiscuity.
Cause aggressive behavior?
It actually elicits a pain response in the brain that can make you more aggressive.
Really?
Yeah.
So should parents not spank at all?
The American Academy of Pediatrics says no spanking whatsoever.
Wow.
There's not a single.
And the reason why I'm talking about this is because I actually got into a little discussion with some people on the interwebs about how discipline, they call it discipline instead of abuse. They call it discipline. And how they say, well, you just can't let these kids run rampant, undisciplined, right? But so they're advocating violence and abuse to children, and they're calling it discipline. But let's get real. I don't know. I haven't watched any of these videos yet. I just pulled them up. They looked good, and we're going to go over them real quick, and I'll probably like most everything that's said in them. But, sorry, train of thought. Hitting your kids might get them to stop doing something right away, but it gets them to think violence is okay. And if another thing is when people say that, hey, it helps them be better, I think those are the kind of people who are talking about bad parenting. Like, you were a bad parent to begin with. Like, if your kid's doing stuff like that in school or whatever and misbehaving and doing some raunchy stuff, yeah, you kind of sucked as a parent to begin with. Like, you were bad from the start. Because if you knew how to raise kids, if you knew how to communicate with them and get your point across and connect with them, right? Then they would, and you knew how to teach them like you should be able to do as a man, because that's what men do. They teach and connect with their children to get them ready for the world, and that helps in you. If your go-to thing is popping them or spanking them, then you don't know what the hell you're doing to begin with. You don't know how to be a parent. You never learn. So let's go on.
Single study that has showed any positive benefit of spanking.
Okay, it's just what we grew up with, right? I mean, so that's what you think is right.
Do you spank your kids? I'm curious.
We do-ish, kind of, not really. I mean, we're a little bit in between. I grew up with a very strict family, so it was kind of like probably the other end of the spectrum. But we do, and that's why I was very curious about this study, and I had heard a little bit about this in some studies.
Well, they actually showed.
It's not that difficult to go on Google. That's the problem I find with a lot of people who are parents. It's like, don't you learn stuff on Google? Wouldn't you think, hey, I don't know what the hell I'm doing with this baby? Like, do you think maybe you just, like, do people just lazy? They don't want, I don't understand.
That that in a study they took first grade boys and had them watch videos where kids were being spanked, and others watched videos where kids were not being spanked. And the ones that even watched the spanking were more aggressive with dolls when they played afterwards. So even just seeing the behavior can make you more aggressive.
So what's the alternative?
Non-violent and
What's the alternative? How about connecting? Sorry, we'll continue in the video.
positive punishment. So a few different ways the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends. So show and tell, for example. So you teach them the right thing to do by modeling the behavior. You can use consequences.
Connecting.
In fact, they do recommend in extreme circumstances using some negative consequences. Timeouts, for example, are good, or taking things away. So if you don't pick up your toys,
taking things away is not really going to do things. That's kind of action that does nothing to do with what was. I don't think it's very. No.
To put them
effective.
away for the rest of the day.
We do have a penalty box. That's what we we put them in the penalty box.
Yeah.
You know, but we did the same thing growing up, where you don't get TV for a week, you have to go to your room and that kind of stuff as well. And so that's kind of what you're saying should be more of the alternative here.
It really should, because yesterday a study came out in the Lancet looking at 69 different studies, and all of them are essentially saying the same thing, that these psychological behavioral consequences can not just occur, but they can be enduring and lasting on your child. So really, starting discipline early, which is very important, but doing it in a positive and non-violent way so that it doesn't trigger those aggressive responses.
That's correct. That is correct. Non-violent way. You know, I'll just go ahead and say it for anybody who cares. I was abused mentally and physically by both my parents. My father died when I was 8. You know, but before then, I was hit by both parents. My father used a belt, his belt, whatever belt he was wearing, and my mom used a wooden paddle. She kept tying on the shelf because I was too young to reach for it. Yeah, and so basically back then in the 70s and 80s, it was pretty much you want to be seen but not heard. Like back then, because I grew up in the 70s, 80s, they thought that hitting children was just the way to go because they didn't know any better, right? And so I was what I thought and felt about the world, what I think and how I feel was never asked. It was two shits were never given. And then after my father died, my mother let me and my 2 brothers be home alone a lot. We were young. And my mom just started dating my father's undertaker, which was kind of weird. And she did that until he died. And then she started dating one of his friends and married him. And she still married him today in a retirement home. But when I was 14, when I was 14, my older brother, who at the time, my oldest brother moved out when he was 16. Of his own accord, apparently, because he couldn't take it. My middle brother was kicked out at 14, and then I was kicked out of the house at 14. And so my mom she just wanted to be home with the horses, blah, blah, blah. So I grew up with like foster homes, shelters, group homes. I went to like 6 different high schools. And I guess all the crap I went through, it caused me to have, I think I had to self-diagnose myself, I guess, because I don't know. It's not that difficult. I think I know that I have a form of ADHD. I think it's called impulsivity, and it's really been inhibiting my ability to interact well with others face to face in a professional setting, which is why I work remotely. Yeah. So how you treat kids really depends, and will really determine how they turn out later in life. So like my age now, I mean, I still have the repercussions from that. I mean, I don't care how much therapy you go through, you know, you're never going to be 100. You're always going to have some residual effects of what you've gone through. And so I'm just using myself as an example. And unfortunately, my older brother never learned from my parents' mistakes, so he treats kids the way I was treated. And I just have no respect for him. He's also religious, so I don't interact with him. I never talk to him. But I learned from my parents' mistakes, and I know how to talk to kids. I know how to interact and how to get them to listen, and I know how to get them to learn. It's not that difficult, but a lot of parents out there, they're lazy, and they let the TV raise their kids, and that's just not a way of raising children who you want to be well behaved and well adjusted and ready for the world. That's why it takes a good man. This is why children are more ready for the world if the single parent is a man rather than a woman. Men teach and ready children for the world. Women are just nurturing. They don't really get them prepared for the world. So it's a hit or miss with them, whereas it's more guaranteed that they'll go in the right direction if you have a man around. But two-parent households, very good to have man and a woman. Or if it's two women, you couple lesbos, that's fine. Just make sure the child has a male role model, because one of you who's the one on top is not going to be sufficient. I'm sorry. So we'll continue on here.
Glad you joined us.
Oh, we're done with this one. Let's go to the next one. I pulled up some Harvard thing here. Relevant search, spanking, effects of spanking in the brain. You know what? This reminds me of male genital mutilation, MGM, which they like to call circumcision. I think I remember reading a study once where they looked at the brain's pattern of a baby before they sexually mutilated it, and then they did it after, and it was not the same, and it actually never returned to the same like it was before. So it has a lasting effect. Who knows how long on the functions of the brain. So I'm very much against sexual mutilation of babies. I think we can do other things with I don't think we need to be taking the foreskin of babies and using them, in products, which is what they do with it, which is why the hospitals really want it and why they keep asking, do you want us to cut some skin off your baby? They don't say the other part of it whether they want to say where we will sell it for quite a bit of money, which is a good little side gig we have going on here at the hospital. Like, they're not going to say that. They're just going to blow the smoke up your ass and get you to say yes. It's why they ask you multiple times in the hospital, do you want us to cut it? And different people asking. They'll have different people, multiple people asking you, can we cut crap off your baby? Like, if you say no to one person, another person will ask you before you're out of there. It's crazy. And I just, if any of you watching don't realize how bad MGM is, please just do a little Googling. You don't have to take my word for it. It's just bad. It's just bad. It's the most sensitive part, and they cut it off so they can use it in products. But that's a different video. Let's just go on here. Anyway, so like I was saying, the effect of spanking the brain. Yeah, it has an effect. Anything you do, a lot of violence, any kind of violence you do to a child, because a child's still growing up, right? Your brain is still forming and stuff. So any kind of violence you do, whether it's cutting parts of their penis off or unnecessarily, or you're spanking them, it's going to cause a lasting effect. And I'm actually living proof of that. Before I said this, I think only my mother and one therapist in my life knew what I suffer from. But now the whole world knows that I suffer from impulsivity. And although it's curbed a lot and I've got it to, it's tamed. It's just not fully tamed, and I'll never be able to work. I can hang around people, kind of, and for the most part, I can hang around people, no problem. It's just I'm not always going to be professional, so there's going to be complaints. I'm going to find myself in the HR department. I mean, it's just inevitable. Stuff just comes out of my mouth, and it's great for comedy. I can make people laugh, no problem. It's not good for the workplace. So this Harvard thing goes on and tells you about, recognize spanking is not an effective tool of discipline. There's better techniques. The most important tool out there is explaining to children certain behaviors that are wrong and what type of behavior to seek through an example. Like, I can give an example of this. Like, let's say your kid's in the store screaming because he wanted some toy and you're not going to get it, right? Most American parents here, because let's face it, the culture here sucks balls. They will want to hit their kid. But how about taking a different approach? Because it's a child. You know, if you have been successful at connecting with them in the past, you come across this new obstacle, now it's time to connect with them again. How do I connect with my child? How do I get them to not do that? So the answer there is to try, because in order to connect with your child, you have to gauge where their understanding is. And even though the child may be young, you can still find that point where you can understand how to engage with them, how to get them to understand. And people who say this is difficult because they're so young, they're just lazy. You're lazy, you're lazy, you're lazy. Because it can be done. And I will say how I would do it. How I would do it is I would take the child aside and, you know, I have to get them calmed down, you know, whether it's outside the store or somewhere in the store or whatever. And it's like, hey, you know, when you scream like that, you make mommy or daddy, you know, look bad. And you make us look like bad parents. And then, you know, we don't want what we're doing. Do you want to make us look bad? Do you want mommy, daddy to be unhappy? And you get them to see what they're doing, right? Because smacking them is not, how is that going to help at all? So you get them, you try to connect with them the best you can, and get them, they'll be, oh yeah, no, I don't want you. I'm sorry. I'm like, I know you wanted this thing, but we can't get this. I'm sorry. Maybe next time, you know, and mention something that you're going to look forward to later, right? Whether it's going to be dessert or something fun you're supposed to do that evening, you know, mention something like that. It's for them to look forward to and stuff like that. You know, just something to get their mind off of it, you know, whatever it is. It's all about connecting and getting them to understand. And you can be as basic as you need to be. You just have to understand that sometimes you got to get real basic. But whatever it takes, that's what's important. Like, you have to try. Don't be a lazy parent, or you're going to raise kids who go to jail. All right. Work to eradicate forms of violence in the home and school environment by pushing for policies that make corporal punishment legal in the world. Yeah, you really don't want, you know, by hitting kids, you kind of tell them, "Oh, look, might makes right," and then you know they're beating up other kids in the school. Why do you think all these movies show bullies in schools hitting kids and bullying other kids, and they go home to their dad? I mean, how many movies is this? The same movie, right? They go home to their dad, and the dad's beating the crap out of them, right? Because that's what they knew. That's what they know. So that's what they do at school, right? Provide better support to families. Yes, that's what you need to do. Okay, all right, so that's good. Let's get on to something else here. This looks like a quick one. While beating us a try, let me get my thing in here. It says, sorry, I'm not getting the whole picture in here for some reason. I don't know why. Why am I not getting the whole picture? OBS? I don't understand. I'm not a freaking pro at the OBS, okay? I don't know why by the screen. It's both the same resolution. So why aren't you doing the whole thing? Capture mesh. Back. I have no idea. Anyways, I'll tell you what it says down there. While beating is a tried and tested method of disciplining a child, not very well, the fact remains that it's not a healthy thing to do both emotionally and physically. Let's take a better look at the effects of beating children. Spanking your child for small mistakes will trigger the feeling of fear in him, and he may feel that it's okay to hit people who are younger than him. Yes. This kind of All right, this sparked something else that is good to talk about. Not quite the same thing, but sort of. It's still mental. If you, let's say your kid just went trick-or-treating and you bring him in, you want to play a joke on him. Like I've seen this in video before, probably why I thought of it. I've seen, and you prank your kid, you're like, hey, I ate all your candy, I'm sorry. And the kid's like, but that was my candy. And he gets upset or whatever. And then you're like, no, here it is. Here's the candy. And you think, oh, you're an adult. It's just a prank. He should be able to get over it. That's a child. That is an effing child. And you know what you just did? He just was traumatized. You know what he just did? He just understood that you are capable of doing that to him. Right? Like that, he now knows that you can do that to him. Like even if you said it's a joke, you expect him to get over it. Like, oh, no problem. That's something an adult would do. Like maybe they can forgive it because they're not. But it's a child. And now forever in his brain, because it's still developing, right? He's still understanding the world. Right? Now he sees you as someone who will do that. Now he will never trust you. He will see you as that kind of person. He might act like he doesn't, but in the back of his mind, he knows what you're capable of, and he'll never forget that. Subconsciously, he'll remember it. If not consciously, subconsciously, he will. And that's going to have an everlasting effect on him. It devalues the child. That's correct. If you constantly hit your child and tell him often that he is wrong or bad, he'll think that he's not a good person. Right. Because what do lazy parents do? They hit their kid whenever he's wrong. Whenever he does something good or he just does the average thing he's supposed to do around there, he never gets praised for that. Right? You just get hit and now he thinks he's just a piece of shit. Right? So, that's already sped up. He devalues the parent. Right, of course. If you hate your child, he will be afraid to come to you and tell you if he does something wrong, and you and your child. Exactly. This is so important. Let me touch on this because this means a lot right here. If you hit your child, it's like I knew all these answers. If he hit your child, he will be afraid to come to you and tell you if he does something wrong, and you and your child may become detached. Listen, I've heard this before. People say to me, they go, Ted, my job is to be a parent. Yeah, I walked out on a lady once. I was getting to know some years ago because of how she was disciplining her child. Her daughter. Like right in front of me. Her daughter went on to some property to visit somebody, and she told her before not to go on that property, and then how she handled it, I did not approve of at all. And I only want to date good people. And I could have stuck around. I could have maybe expended some energy to teach this lady how to be a paired parent, but I didn't think it was worth it. I didn't think it would happen. I didn't want to waste my time. I didn't know it was going to be a success or not. So in the middle of her doing that shit, or just after she finished whatever she was, I'm just like, I didn't like how she didn't hit the kid. She did other things, okay? But how she made that child feel and the punishment she gave to the child afterwards. Like, I put myself in that child's shoes. I've been there, you know? And unfortunately, that seems to be a rare thing. But there's better ways of handling it. There are better things that can be done than that. And I'm like, listen, I gotta go. I can't stay here for this. And then she didn't understand while I was leaving. I'm like, I gotta go. I just got my things. I don't think I had anything, maybe my shoes. And then I just went outside to my car and left. And I never saw her again. And then like one of her friends like texted me and was like, why did you walk out? you could have had this, you could have gotten you some, now you're not going to get any. And it's like, I don't care. Like, luckily I'm not someone who's sex deprived, but I didn't care. It's just weird. Anyways, I made a good decision. So sorry. I went on a tangent, my bad. So my point in here is that yes, it's good to be a parent, but being a parent doesn't mean you need to be authoritative all the time, you know? Being a parent could just mean you just need to be their friend, right? Because if you're their friend, then they feel like they can come to you, because where do the people go when they have problems? They go to their friends. If you can show your child that you're a friend, treat them like kind of treat them kind of like a roommate, like you're on the same team. Yeah, you're the parent, but you're on the same team. You want them to succeed. They just can't do certain things that you can do yet. So maybe some people take that kind of mentality, and just be like, show them that you're their friend and not just someone who has power over you. Because if you always show a kid or tell them you have power over them, which is what a lot of parents do, they be like this lady, this girl right here, right? They tone out, like they just feel crappy, they just feel powerless, and they don't feel like they're a part of something important, and they need to feel like they're part of a family. So that's what parents need to do. They need to make them feel part of a family, and not like they're someone's bitch, okay? Because they're people, right? So that's what's important. That's the message that's being said here. If you are a crappy parent to where you act and condescend them and make them feel like crap often for little things, they're not going to, how often do you think, when they grow up, how often are they going to come back and spend holidays with you or talk to you and on the phone? Like, what do you think your chances are of them being there for you when they get older? Shit ain't going to happen. It may turn into a habit. If after hitting your child, you knows that he behaves properly, every time he does something wrong, you might resort to spanking to get him to behave properly. Yep, that's just a bad thing. Well, let me check these messages right real quick. Okay. It makes a child lose self-confidence. That's correct. Social skills. I said earlier, social skills drop. And yes, okay, here's another thing. This brings up another aspect of my childhood. Since my father died, well, even before then, but especially after then, how I felt about anything was never taken into consideration. How I feel about something, what I think about things. I was always told by my mom how I should think and feel about things, and just to shut up. Just don't worry about this. Don't worry about it. She's, even to this day, if I hang out with my mom, she'll try to tell me that I shouldn't care about this or care about that. Why is this any of your business? So we don't hang out that often. It wasn't until my early 20s that I realized, this is going to sound a little effed up, that I realized how I think and feel about things should matter to other people. I know that sounds crazy, because most of you people are like, what? Yeah, no. It's like it took me that long, and that's crazy shit. Yes, self-esteem and confidence take a huge toll. It may make the child rebellious. Yes, remember, it increases criminality. If you hit your child frequently, he'll know that the worst that you'll do is hit him. So he might disregard your commands and do as he likes. Yeah, eventually, if all you do is hit him, he might become numb to it. That is correct, and become even worse. Especially if he gets bigger than you. I know some parents whose kids are in jail. And you know what they say to me? Little dumbasses. They say to me, I did the best I could. I did all I could. Right? That's right. You did all you could. And that was not good enough. That's why your kid is in prison. Because you suck as a parent. I think that was a single mom who said that to me. So, obviously, kid went to prison. It results in anger issues. That is correct. I definitely have anger issues. But most of the time I play Call of Duty. That's it. If you get angry and beat a child for little things, you will sow the seeds of anger. That's correct. It encourages antisocial behavior. I think that's correct. Children who are subjected to corporal punishments as they grow up are more likely to exhibit antisocial and selfish behavior in their adulthood. That is correct. Kids don't forget the pain. That is correct, dude. I remember a lot of my beatings, dude. Like a lot. My dad walking in the room with the belt all ready because I talked back to his mom once, which is my grandmother, at her house once at dinner or whatever, because something said to me was stupid, and I always say my mind. So he walks in the room, closes the door. I'm going to give you a beauty. Like, I remember that. I remember a lot of those things. Okay. Don't forget their parents beat them. Yep. They don't forget their parents beat them for no important reason, right? So I said something. But should I get beaten for it? No. And let me remind you, it's not just I'm not just talking about beatings, spankings, little spanks themselves, they shouldn't happen. Like, no violence, dude. It simply does not work, right? No good come out of using the rod on your child. In fact, it may end up scarring your child for life. Strategies that you can try. Alternative discipline strategies. Start with calming yourself first. If your child is wrong, don't take out your anger on him. Yeah, there you go. Make him understand what he did wrong and help him make it right again. Yeah, that's talking about connecting, right? Hear him out. Always talking always works. Listen before you shout or spank. Right. A lot of parents, they don't listen. There are many other discipline strategies that can actually help the child develop and gain respect for himself. So try those instead and say no to hitting. There you go. There you go, ladies and gents. What we got her, Dr. Full. I will figure out this. Must be something I did. OBS is not. Why aren't you taking... I have no idea. I will figure out why I'm not getting the whole screen here.
Hi, I'm Ashley, and I am a single mom.
Oh, that's no surprise. Fatty, fatso, fatter, Twinkie eater.
Of 2 girls. They walk all over me because I don't have someone else backing me up.
Oh, the reason why they walk all over because she doesn't have someone else to do the work for her. Because she has no idea what she's doing. So she's going to blame it on other people instead of her own shortcomings. I'm seeing it now.
I spank both of my girls. There is no pulling down of pants. It's just one fell swat. But I don't know if it helps. You are in.
Nope.
I don't have any control anymore.
You never had control. Or maybe when they were like babies in the crib. You never learned to have control. You don't know what control is.
They'll kick and scream. Drawing on the wall, drawing on themselves, hit the walls and say I hate you. And after a period of time, that tends to wear me down. My 2-year-old has meltdowns. In public, I've been asked by store managers if she is physically hurt because her screaming is so excessive. Dr. Phil, is it okay to spank? And
nope.
If so, what is the right way?
No way.
Dr. Phil's going to tackle that question for you in just a second.
Just FYI, I don't think Dr. Phil's an actual doctor. I don't like the dude very much. But we'll continue.
Second, but first, we want the audience to weigh in on this issue. You guys know the drill. Look under your seats. Got those handy-dandy Paget gadgets. Here's the question. Would you spank your child? Yes, press 1. No, press 2. Well, Dr. Phil has an opinion, but first let me see what you guys think. Let's see the answer, please. Ooh, wow, I'm surprised.
A lot of dumbasses in the audience.
You guys look like such nice people. Dr. Phil, what do you say?
Fat people.
Say to Ashley, who's in the audience. Hey,
Well,
Ashley.
Ashley, stand up if you would. I want you to spank my hand as hard as you have ever hit one of your children. Okay, now that's it.
No. I don't believe you, Ashley.
Okay.
Now go for it again and just hit him no matter what.
It's usually like the meat of the thigh.
Now, show me
Just
again.
spank his thigh. Get his butt. That's fine.
Show me
Turn
again.
around, Phil. Come on now.
That's probably.
Okay, your little one weighs, what, 50 pounds? Okay, that's a problem. And let me tell you the issue here. It confuses the child and it teaches them nothing. You got to
Yep.
see things through your child's eyes.
Yep.
You love them, right?
Connecting.
I mean, you tell them you love them, right? And then all of a sudden, you jump up and inflict physical pain on them.
Yep.
That is confusing to a 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old child. They're like, I don't know. I trusted you.
Yep.
You said you loved me. You were my soft place
Yep.
to fall. I went to you when I was hurt. And then all of a sudden, bang, you're inflicting pain on me.
I wonder if she needs to get smacked around in order to go to the gym. What do you guys think?
It is not an effective discipline. It is not an effective game changer for the child. And we ask you a lot of questions, right? I know a lot about
You didn't ask her about her diet, apparently.
you, and I want to be very clear. This is a loving and attentive mother. So I want to be very clear about that. We're not throwing you under the bus here.
Yes, yeah.
Seriously, you are,
Well,
you are loving, you are
the fact that she's actually, I'll give her this, the fact that she's actually here looking for help, that's good. She could have pulled up Google, done some searches, but she's not that smart, so.
attentive and you are nurturing to this children, and you're doing what 60% of the audience said they would do. And that's about, America's about 50-50 on this.
So what advice would you give to a single mom with
Learn to be a parent. You okay, never mind, we'll continue.
2 girls that are kind of...
Oh, hell, I don't. I'm just kidding. I kid.
He has a checklist, Ashley. He has a checklist.
Actually, I do have a checklist. Number one, you have to commit yourself to discipline because children learn. And what your goal is, you want the children to be able to predict the consequences of their actions with 100% accuracy. They need to no, when I do A, B happens. When I do C, D happens. If they can predict it, then they're choosing their own consequences. And so they begin to self-discipline. And the goal of every discipline is it ultimately is internalized. You need to be realistic in your expectations. You don't send a 2-year-old to go clean up the room and dust the furniture. And then, this is the key. You've got to define your child's currency. There is something they value. Maybe it's watching a video or a stuffed toy or whatever, and they need to understand that that currency is dependent upon their performance.
Okay, I just want to comment real quick on this. These are steps you take after you've been hitting your kids, right? After. There are a different set of steps that are mostly not likely not going to be talked about in these kind of videos that you take before you start hitting your kids, or if you plan to never hit your kids. Those steps require a connection with your child for as young as you possibly can, and discussion and ability to convey right from wrong to them and get them to understand real world consequences and what their actions mean, and that their actions have an influence in the world and they have consequences, and that they can do good, be a force for good, and teach them how. And you can do all these things in a very basic level if you just learn to connect with a child, know their limits, know what they can understand, and then communicate within that boundary of understanding. And it takes work. But if you can get on that and do that right, then you're not going to have a kid that does some effed up stuff. Right? Maybe when they're very young and they scream in the store like that, but there's ways you can handle that too. But once they get older and you have that foundation, you don't have to worry about, taking stuff away from them or, getting punishments ready. It's about conversation and understanding and giving them good morals and how to go about life. And it might sound impossible, but I guarantee you it's very possible.
And use child level logic. I got spanked one time when I was in the 6th grade by my father, because we weren't supposed to go swimming at a mountain.
Wish it was
lake up
one
in
time.
Colorado, and I did. And I got caught. He said, "Did you go swimming?" Well, my eyes were bloodshot. I might as well give it up. I said, "Yes, we did. We rode our bikes up there. It's a wonder we didn't drown." And I got spanked for that. And then he came in 5 minutes later and he gave me $1. And he said, "This is for telling the truth." And he left, and I tore that dollar into 1,000 little pieces. So I said, "I don't want a damn thing from you. You come in here and hit me because you're bigger than me. I'll never get over that." But I'm over it.
So there you go. I just want to touch on this, make a quick video. I don't know how long this has been so far. 40 minutes. Okay, so I just want a quick video on this, and you know, this is something important to me. I think I should just do this. Can I do this? Is I can do this? I don't know. Whatever. I'll get this OBS stuff down soon enough. You know how some people, they do their videos, they can go right to the full screen of their picture. You know, I don't want to roast myself in this fire, but whatever. You know, they can just go full screen. Like, I haven't got all that mastered yet. Anyway, so I just wanted to do a quick video on this. I think it's important to reach people out there, let them know that, hey, the study's been out, the work's been done, and there's a good way of being a parent, and there's a bad way of being a parent. And I'm tired of, because I've been in arguments before in real life. I can remember being in an argument at McDonald's once where this lady was hitting a kid because he didn't eat his fries or something, and I said something, and like part of her argument was, "Do you have kids?" Like she asked that as if to implicitly imply that if I had kids, then I would understand hitting's okay. Like that's, like somehow that's a currency you need in order to know right from wrong. Like there haven't been millions and billions of kids already. Like there are not already been studies done. Like they asked me, "Do you have kids?" I don't need to have kids to know. I've been a kid, right? I know what's good. I've read the studies. I've seen the outcomes, right? So, like, you don't need to have kids to know what not to do to kids and what to do kids. It's just it's the information's out there. There's lots of videos, lots of stuff to read. I wish I had some books to recommend anyone who's more interested, but if you just Google it, I'm sure you'll find some great material out there if you're interested on how to connect with your children, how to how to raise them without smacking them around like they're your little bitch, right? Fear of violence is not something children do well with. I did not do well with it. My life has been difficult because of it. I'm still having the effects of it, but I'm doing all right. And but when I have kids, if I do, I definitely want to give them the things I didn't have growing up. I would want him to understand right from wrong without being beaten, so he can be productive, be a better person than I became, or that I was when I was a kid as well. So I hope you guys liked it, and I'll go ahead and upload this, and talk to you guys later. Peace.